Hey guys! As I mentioned in the previous topic overview, this week on Biological Foundations of Health and Illness may be old hat to many of you if you've recently covered it in other courses. If you need more background or reminding, I've provided some activities that may help. Just like research methods, it is important that everyone has a good foundation on biological systems, so you can apply this information for the rest of the topics in the course. One topic that is more likely to be new for everyone, which is covered at the end of the chapter, is how genes and the environment interact, or epigenetics. To provide you a list of readings and assignments for this week, you will need to complete Chapter 3, which should take about an hour, and 2 supplementary readings, which are specifically related to epigenetics, endophenotypes, and probabilistic epigenesis. I've also found a video on epigenetics will take about 40 minutes to watch. It uses mouse models to explain how the environment and genes interact, and how the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. I provided a worksheet and some coloring pages for those who need more in-depth studying the biological systems. It's especially important that you become familiar with the purpose of these different systems and consider how this could impact social, emotional, and overall psychological functioning. As I mentioned, some of you may be ready to head straight to the quiz and health profile after completing the supplementary readings in epigenesis, but others will need to be more diligent in their studying and may use this material. You have a health profile that requires you to demonstrate reflection on how genes and the environment interact and concepts relevant to epigenetics. This week's health profile requires peer comments through a discussion post, so be sure you go back in by Saturday at 5 p.m. and post on 2 of your peers' posts with insightful comments that elaborate on the material. Don't forget your module assignment. It is due after you complete the next topic. There is one question relevant to this topic, so go ahead and complete it after you turn in your health profile to stay on top of things. As I mentioned, the biological systems are critical in explaining part of the mechanism behind how our bodies influence our social and psychological functioning. Understanding these are your first learning objective: to demonstrate an understanding of the biological foundations of health and illness by being able to identify important contributors of the following systems and describe their relevance to health and wellness. For example, neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin, and cortisol are often measured in participants' blood in research in health psychology to help explain such psychological constructs as reward and motivation, depression, and stress. Divisions of the nervous system, like the somatic and autonomic nervous system, can explain why we react physiologically and therefore behaviorally to certain events. Understanding the different aspects of the brain helps us to consider how inter-individual differences in psychosocial functioning can be explained by different regions of the brain. For example, adolescents are more likely to process socio-emotional problems through the more primitive limbic system rather than their prefrontal cortex, and individuals with ADHD and dyslexia often have smaller cerebella or reduced activity in this region. The endocrine system helps us understand hormones, or chemical messengers that influence slower acting responses than neurotransmitters. Hormones influence responses of a longer duration, like puberty and metabolism. The immune system will be focused on more in depth when we discuss stress in our next module. Understanding how our immune system functions will help you to know why stress can be so detrimental to our body and functioning. Finally, I want to touch on topics that are actually not covered too in depth in your chapter, but comprise your second learning objective: to explain the role of nature and the interaction of nature and nurture on development and health functioning. Because of this, I've provided you a lecture that will help you to consider how genes and the environment work together more in depth. As a developmental psychologist, I'm very interested in the idea of how nature and nurture work. We know that both are contributing factors. It isn't a debate between nature versus nurture. Now we are tasked on how to evaluate the complex relations between the two, such as how many genes influence one trait, which is called polygenic inheritance, or how genes can be activated and influenced by environmental influences, which is termed multifactorial transmission. These are all under the topic of epigenesis. I've also provided a new concept not covered in your book through supplementary reading on endophenotypes. Just a reminder of your deadlines: your health profile is due Thursday by 5, quiz Friday by 5, and comments on your health profile for this week on Saturday by 5. Here's an introduction to your health profile for this topic. You need to relate how epigenetics relates to the biopsychosocial model by evaluating a health risk you have using nature and nurture, or the interaction of the two. Be sure to use key terms covered, such as multifactorial transmission, polygenetic inheritance, probabilistic epigenesis, and endophenotypes. Now, don't forget your module assignment, where you need to identify one prevention program in the community that you believe is based upon theory and research relevant to health psychology. In the worksheet that you need to complete for this assignment, question 6 is most relevant to this topic. So go ahead and complete it once you've finished your health profile. I hope you're settling well into the semester. Enjoy learning about the influence of biological systems in health psychology.